Editions will be in Vivian Art Gallery from January 22nd all the way to March 14th. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Gatenby, and I'm standing here today with VIVIANEART, who is the founder and owner of VIVIANEART. And today we're going to be discussing her new upcoming show, Editions. So Vivian, tell us a little bit about the show.
Thanks, Stephen. I will do that. This is Editions. These are 7 of the gallery's represented artists that happen to work in Editions, some exclusively and some only as one small part of their practice. So we have Erik Olson, Beal, Diane Landry, Aida Muluneh, Winnie Tang, Alana Bartol, and Brighthilton. We're going to talk about each of them as we go around. But first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about why we would do a show called Editions. It's for a couple of reasons. First of all, there are artists whose practices are completely centered on editions. Aida Muluneh, for example, who is working with photography. Brighthilton, primarily, who is working with etching and aquatint prints. But also, traditionally, limited edition prints allow collectors to stay within the realm of a fine art collection, to add works to their fine art collection, but at a more affordable price point. So Editions allows us to show some works by artists that collectors can collect, and perhaps it'll be a friendlier price point than their original paintings, for example, of Erik Olson.
So 3 pieces by Erik Olson, and one thing I found truly fascinating was that he referred to his motorcycle as a mobile sculpture. And it really is a piece of art in itself that can just move from place to place.
Yes, and he has been a motorcycle lover and owner for a long time, but this was his dream bike. So when Erik Olson was in Calgary in 2018 for the last time we did a big painting show together, he's a Calgarian, so we always get a great crowd out whenever we have a show, but he's been in Germany for the last 4 years. But he came back for an extended stretch of time, left Calgary and went straight to Vancouver and bought the dream bike there. That's where his master printmaker is, at New Leaf Editions on Granville Island. He showed Peter Braun the bike. That's part of where that conversation about the bike as a sculpture came in, and that's when they started talking about doing this print series. So these are etchings with aquatint. The motorcycle and the road, that's the etching. The hand coloring is oil pastel. So while they're part of our Editions show, they're not truly an edition work. They're kind of a crossover because there is a print, and then Erik makes each one unique with the coloring. He left Vancouver, went to LA with the motorcycle for a residency that he's done there before. He left LA and then took the motorcycle all the way to London, Ontario, following along the Mississippi River. I believe it was 10,000 miles he went, and it was a dream trip for him, serious bucket list trip, and he has colored each of these motorcycle prints with a different memory of his travels. This is only 3 of them. The South Dakota sunflowers, the Joshua tree, and the Dino Mart is an LA storefront. So these are our 3 pieces in the show by Erik Olson. His textbook, crazy, wonderful, colorful, vibrant work.
So these 2 editions from Beal are very vibrant, to say the least. Now, are these actual prosthetic eyes?
These are prosthetic eyes, although Kyle has mixed in some googly eyes as well. And this one is like a reflective mirror that I believe is actually his eye. He was inspired by an image he saw of a bunch of prosthetic eyes on a countertop in a laboratory, and it just sort of caught him. And The idea of the eye and the gaze is really in line with Kyle's current practice, where he's sort of looking at selfie culture, social media, spectators and spectacles, and how all of us now, all of us who engage in those platforms, there's really something about that and how we think about our appearance in a different way and how we're viewed. So he's taking a leap with that and creating these two really poppy images with these eyes. This one really, I think, dips into surrealism. So there's a film I remember having to see when I was in art school by Salvador Dali, where a razor blade goes into an eyeball. And it's one of those scenes you never get out of your mind. And it's the first thing I thought of when I saw this, passing the eye test, with the hammer breaking the prosthetic eye. And that wouldn't surprise me from Kyle Beal, because humor is huge in his work, but there's also an intellect to his practice that is really engaging. And I think these are great examples of that. He's chosen to present these pieces in a light box because I think he really wanted to push that idea of spectacle, a billboard, commercialism. These look like ads. He really wanted to play on that. So I think the light box is super effective with these two pieces.
Actually, I totally agree. When you light it from the back and put it into this elevated kind of three-dimensional presentation, you really get that impression of a billboard, something lit up for everyone to see as an advertisement. Are these tiddlywinks in here?
Yes, I think they are tiddlywinks and something I think he's hoping will look like blood, but I bet you it's water and pigment or something. He's playing on the idea of the joy we can somehow get from watching something we shouldn't enjoy, like our favorite sports team lose, or someone else's misfortune. Something that I think also ties in really directly to social media.
This one by Diane Landry, I think I have to say, is my favorite. The one in the living room, particularly. And Vivian, are these 4 images taken just at 4 times of the day?
Yeah, although there was a lot more to this than that. So this one is called Radio Silence Living Room, the one that you are really drawn to. And its partner is Radio Silence Bedroom. And they are documentation from a performance Diane did. So Diane is a sculptor, an installation artist, and a performer. And this was an endurance feat. She was at a residency at the Quebec studio in New York City. And she chose to do this performance that was made into a video and these still prints. She stood in the same spot in these locations for 2 24-hour periods and shot 1 photo of herself every single minute. So that meant bathroom breaks, food, like all of those things had to happen within that 1-minute window, and then she needed to get back to that spot for another shot. So it was an endurance feat. It's really interesting it was then compressed into a video with, the stop motion of the images. And then here she just chose different frames that represented different light, different times of day. And it's incredible how it changes how the image looks depending on the light. It reminds me a lot of, there's a piece by Andy Warhol that he did in 1964, a film called Empire, where the camera was just set up on the Empire State Building. It didn't move at all. So all that happened in the course of the film was changing of light, and it was 8 hours and 5 minutes, I think. I don't know if Diane was thinking of that, but I think this has a similar effect in that you're looking at the same figure in the same space and the light changes it dramatically.
I love what details arise with the passage of time and the different times of day. You can see the structure of the dust or dirt on the windows and the shadows from the buildings across the street coming and going. I really love these pieces. And now these two from Aida Muluneh. And Vivian, you said earlier that the first time she actually held a camera was in the dark room at Western Canada High School right here in Calgary.
That's right. Aida, the first time I showed Aida Muluneh's work in my gallery was in 2016, and I had been introduced to her by Gillian Ross, who is a printmaker in South Africa and is from Regina, so I know Gillian. I was researching her work, and that's how I discovered in an interview she had on the web that she actually went to Western Canadian High. She did a lot of her schooling in Canada, left Ethiopia as a 5-year-old girl. And it was her art teacher in Calgary who loaned a camera to her, and where she had her first training in photography, and she took to it really well, and it became her vocation. At first, it was photojournalism. It evolved into a contemporary art practice of photography, and these are just two great examples. She has just gone through the roof since I showed her in 2016. She's now collected by the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Wow.
And was included in an exhibition there. She had a beautiful exhibition at the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto a couple summers ago out in their reflecting pools. So she's doing amazing work, and she returned to Ethiopia as an adult and has made it her life work to try to change how people from outside of her country perceive her country. She wants to empower, she wants to raise the respect and awareness of the value of the arts and of women. And she's just doing incredible things. She has a photo festival in Addis Ababa that she has started that's gaining great success. These two pieces are from a series called Memories in Development, and are classic examples of Aida taking some of that Western influence that she has from all of her schooling and combining it with an Ethiopian language visually.
And she represents that by the line down the center of the face, correct?
The line demarking the two sides of the face in part is a reflection for her of those two parts of herself. These are not her though, these are models. She uses models. She paints them, which I think makes these photographs look a lot more like paintings sometimes. And she includes a lot of contemporary influence. So the series, Memories in Development, was inspired by a film she saw when she was in film school by a Cuban filmmaker from 1968, about a Cuban writer who chose to stay in Havana when his wife and friends left and fled to Miami. He chose to stay, and there he witnessed the Cuban Revolution firsthand and its impact on the people and on the society. That storyline really stuck with Aida, and she took it and adapted it to her own experience of Africa. And the African political system, I think most people are aware, has had huge impacts on the societies in Africa, and some positive and some negative. These are commentaries on that experience for Aida.
Another interesting piece, this one by Winnie Tang, and this is stop motion, correct?
It is stop motion animation, I would call it. So Winnie is a Toronto-based artist, and at the core of her practice, she draws, and it's pencil crayon as her primary medium. So since she started doing these figure drawings and portraits of women, typically, she's always exaggerated hair, and hair has always been a big part of the drawing process for her, as a challenge of the idea as hair as an element of beauty. All of her pencil crayon marks start looking like hair. And it wouldn't be unusual for Winnie to have hair, or in this case, plants, sprouting from places that might not be considered so attractive. We're not supposed to have hair there, or plants. So Winnie's drawing practice for this piece and for her current practice of collaging her own drawings includes her cutting out her pencil crayon drawings and then adding them as elements to sort of add a 3D type character to her work. From doing that process, she discovered she could make these actually move with animation. So this is her first video that she's made with the stop motion animation. She's made more since, but Blue Angel here is kind of special. She's a perfect example of Winnie pushing the idea of female beauty and also dipping into the crossover between the body and botany. This woman, I don't know, I kind of see a relationship between her and Mother Nature. She looks happy. She looks really free and comfortable with herself, and she's just there kicking her feet with this plant growing out from an unusual location. This is Winnie Truong's humor, but also her saying, "Isn't this beautiful? Why wouldn't this be considered beautiful?" Alana Bartol. Alana had done a residency in 2016 with the City of Calgary Public Art Program. And these are two of the products of that. They are part of a series she's called Essential Oils Alberta. And she did these collaborations with a botanist, with a woman who was an expert in essential oils and aromatherapy. And she did what I would consider really experimental work in that she started using this process called enfleurage, where you blend plants and botanical materials with other substances to extract their essential oils. So this is document of that for her. She did the lavender, she did the dandelion and sow thistle together as a combination. And she wanted, as she often does in her practice, she wanted to make connections between the environment, health, wellness. She's a huge believer in preserving and protecting the environment. So she did these nature walks, she did these experiments, and she learned a lot about how these oils can be used medicinally and for our health and well-being. And all of that, I think, connects to that core in her practice of preservation and protecting the things of value around us. And these things were literally found around us. This one's actually entitled Dandelion and Sow Thistle, and in brackets it says Kensington, Sunnyside, Downtown West, because those are the actual locations where she picked these things up.
And now we have some pieces from Tyler Brighthilton. And one thing I thought was really interesting about his commentary on these pieces was he wanted to evoke the character grappling with anxiety, feelings of insecurity, and kind of that whole range of emotions that comes with coming of age. And I think those are portrayed beautifully through these two images for sure.
I think you're right. Actually, Tyler's an interesting guy. He's using these super traditional, old world art making techniques of etchings with aquatint, silver point drawings, to portray a modern day fable with really contemporary content. And his protagonist is this adolescent coming of age, Madeline Minmay Pryor, and she is obsessed with River Phoenix. So he has, over the past more than a decade, made 2 complete series of prints that read like a graphic novel. The first one was Minmay Madeline Pryor goes into the dryer, quite literally after her lost sock, and the whole story goes from there. And these 2 are from the series Minmay Madeline Pryor on the Trail of a Liar. And they're incredible examples of his practice. He does his own printmaking, and it's laborious. It took him over 10 years to make those 2 series. And there's 20 pieces in the first and 21 in the second. These are 2 color variations that he's done that you can buy as a single print. The entire graphic novel series of 21 pieces sells as 1 piece. And it's all black on white. So these are beautiful variations though. So these are pure etchings with aquatint on a beautiful paper. This piece over here is a bit unique in that it's not really an editioned piece. It's on a print, but in its center is a silver point drawing of a pendant with River Phoenix and Minmay inside of it. Really tender, really sweet image. So silver point is another old school technique from the days of Galileo, and it's similar to etching in terms of the line making and how you make contrast, in that you can't blend it like you can graphite or charcoal. So everywhere you see contrast, got just more and more lines. And as this ages, the metal will tarnish and it'll just get richer and the contrast will get deeper. So a beautiful technique. And then this beautiful little tiny one here, Minmay and River Phoenix, is printed on silk. So it's an etching, but instead of being printed on paper, it's printed on silk, and I love the title of that one. It's I Want to Build a House Inside of You.
So Vivian, thank you for taking me through all of this. Editions will be in Vivian Art Gallery from January 22nd all the way to March 14th.
I hope you have the opportunity, if you're in Calgary, to come in and see us. We are following public health guidelines, so masks are of course mandatory. Sanitize when you get here, and we're asking that we restrict groups or attendees to 5 at a time in the gallery space, 5 guests at a time. But we are here, and we are open full hours, and we'd love to see you. And if you can't make it in, or you're not in Calgary, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please feel free to reach out if there's anything more we can do for you, or any questions that you'd like answered. Thanks for joining us.